What's up, guys? Welcome to Morning Rambles number one. Technically, it's not Morning Rambles number one because I started Morning Rambles during COVID. Uh, but this is the new Morning Rambles, the new and improved 2024 Morning Rambles. And if you're not familiar with Morning Rambles, you will. It is a stream of consciousness podcast, live stream. I don't know. It's a stream of consciousness thing that I'm doing where I just let out everything that I've been thinking about, hopefully for your benefit, but also for my benefit, about comedy, creativity, movement, life, philosophy, psychedelics, maybe some sex. Who knows what we'll talk about? Talk about a lot of things. Um, I like talking a lot. And these days, I've been actually like talking to myself a lot because I'm currently living at my dad's, which is a whole crazy experience. I've never thought I would ever live with my dad, especially not at 35. I'm 35 years old. I just turned 35. And you know, um it takes a relationship blowing up in your face and things radically shifting in a like non-repairable way for you to make a big leap into something completely different. And so that's what I did. I took a leap into something completely different. I'm living in a small town in northern part of Vancouver Island, and it is so different to be up here and like living in my dad's house. He's not here right now. He was living with me for about 2 months and he's back in Montreal. But I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this high level of change, just like jet fuel poured into the gas tank of your life and just like you just fly off into a direction and you have no fucking clue what's going on, how you got there, how you're going to get back, if you'll ever get back, where you are. Um, I feel like I just went through something that was so dramatically um different. Like I fell in love. I was in love, and um we were engaged, and we were starting to figure out how to build a life, and like things were rocky. Lots of rocky experiences were happening in our personal lives and in our lives together. There's definitely a lack of stability and cohesion. But I just had faith. I just had faith that it would all work out, and it didn't. It totally blew up, and it blew up in the worst possible way. I don't need to get into that right now, but um, I feel like these moments where things just completely dissolve into nothingness, and you're just sitting there with your as the expression goes, with your dick in your hand. Uh, you just have to do different things. You can't function the way you used to function. It has to be completely different. You have to find the nugget. And some people don't find the nugget. Some people don't think this way. Some people will continuously perpetuate the same story or the same idea. And then they'll, go through a similar experience and then they'll do it again. But for me in my life, I think really I take these experiences seriously. I take these experiences where like the plan I had really didn't work out the way I thought, and I look at that situation and I'm like, okay, well, what did I play in it? What was my part in it? And the crazy thing is that we play more of a part in it than we think. I think I was feeling powerless in a lot of moments in our my partner and I's experience. You know, money stress and uh, um, struggling with business and understanding purpose and kind of understanding business as a whole has been a really big challenge and a big point of focus for me because I've had many businesses, but not many of them have been successful like long term. I've had a lot of different businesses because I like a lot of different stuff. It's true. It's part of my own. That's part of what I need to own. But what I'm trying to get at is what was I talking about? The these experiences where you feel a bit powerless, they don't you're not necessarily powerless is what I'm trying to say. And I think hindsight is always 2020, right? We always can look back and go, "Oh, I could have done this. I should have done this. I whatever, whatever." But I really see now how much of the things inside my head that were telling me to be a certain way, um, and like follow a certain path, I was just like pushing away. And the path that I was following was one that I thought was going to be more stable, was going to be more reliable, was going to allow me to fit in. I really wanted to fit in. I've always wanted to fit in. That's my biggest one of my biggest wounds is fitting in. Um, and I've always wanted to fit into a group or a community. I was bullied as a kid. I was completely ostracized in many ways from activities and really deeply traumatized by these little fuckers who would chase me home from school and yell things at me and get me in trouble all the time. Like they would organize ways of like probably not very like conspiratorial, like hanging out trying to figure out like, oh, how do we do this to Cam, but like it would just happen. I would get in trouble for things that they did, or they would kind of con me into things that I didn't want to do because I wanted acceptance. And yeah, it's wild to see now how many of those experiences as a kid or even as a young adult influenced the way that I wanted to come off in the world as like a 20-30 year old person. I really wanted to fit in. I've always wanted to fit in. But that attempt of fitting in and like negating what was true for me um, has caused me a lot of grief. I've like been in relationships that perhaps were not best fitted, or what I feel like is more accurate, specifically in my last relationship, was I was not presenting a person that my partner fell like really in love with. That there was like a big part of me that she was seeing that um, was very present, I think, at the beginning of the relationship because there was a little bit less emphasis on me focusing on business and certain responsibilities. And it was easier for me to express those parts of myself. And also, I was really focused on her. So I made it really, really important to like make her feel the best parts of me. I mean, that's totally natural, right? We all want to do that. So, I think in the later part of our relationship, um, I was trying to connect to the place we were living in. I was trying to build a business. I was trying to understand how to build the business while also um, look forward. And like we had these visions of going to the jungle and like traveling and stuff. And I wasn't very good at it. I didn't know how to do it all. I didn't know how to do it all. And now, hindsight, bringing it all back, it all comes back to this thing of like wanting to fit in. That there's parts of me as a human being growing up in the world that felt so rejected that I'm only now realizing that I've really rejected those parts of myself because of influences outside of me. Mainly my comedic, silly side, goofy side, which like I'm pretty funny right now. probably not that funny to you. I haven't really made any jokes. This is a different format, but like in conversation and when I really put my mind to it, I can be pretty funny, even when I don't try very hard. Um, but this side of me where it's like I'm presenting ideas and I'm very smart and intellectual, it's been a shield. It's been a shield for me to use in the world. And I think we all kind of have those shields that we use something, whether it be our like maybe it's our attractiveness, maybe it's our kindness, maybe it's our agreeableness, maybe it's our whatever. But like for me, my intellect, um, it helps me kind of get by in the world. Because my goofy side, like how do you monetize that? Or like how do you get a job doing that? I've been fired from jobs for being too goofy. I've been um a lot of friends have not really stuck around, and lots of people, it had some downsides to it. But it's also my superpower because I think truly I'm one of those people who can like talk about anything. I'm not offended. I'm not offended by things. I'm not disgusted. I'm not, well, I can feel disgust, but I can take it. Like I feel like the people who I really appreciate in life and I've always appreciated in life are people who can kind of like look at information and be like, yeah, that's a joke or that's a piece of information and we're just talking about it. And I grew up listening to a lot of those people and admiring those people. And so I kind of like started emulating that, but it doesn't fit in very well. It's not very comfortable person. You're not a very welcome person in a lot of places, especially now with so much of the political shit going on. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me how much we can't talk about things anymore and how much we can't joke, how much we can't create humor in the tragedy. Like, listen, I am not ever going to say that like what is going on another side of the world is okay. But to say that we can't joke about it or talk about it or even take on different positions just to discuss the possibility because you're going to be offended by it. I don't know, man. It's tricky. Doesn't feel right to me. And I think that's why someone like Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson or um, I think comedians, especially these days, are like killing it because they are one in a bazillion, because that's a real number. So, something I didn't think about when I started this morning ramble was that I have a big cup of tea and eventually I'm going to have to get up and pee. And I'm already feeling that, which is hilarious. I'm only 13 minutes in. But when we start censoring our ability to talk about things and we talk around things. We don't actually get to the nuts and bolts or the juicy part of things. We basically start shaving off parts of our humanity, I think. Because I think especially now, we're not most of what you consume is like curated and put together and edited and music and changed, and like sometimes it's not even real. Sometimes it's totally fake. Um, and I think we're gonna realize this was a big mistake to lose sight of the spectrum that is humanity, that is being human. And I think that although I still think capitalism is the best solution we've come up with to like how to live together. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's the best option. I think it's given us the most options and opportunities as a globe. Of course, I am not an economist. Is that what a thing? I'm not someone who studies money. I'm not someone who studies global economics, but I do feel like this idea that capitalism is just like broken and fucked up. I think that humans are inherently challenged when it comes to sharing. And I think you take anyone who's criticizing capitalism aside and you're like, okay, what do you do in your own time? Like, do you have any addictions? Do you have any moments where you're like a little bit of a glutton, or you hoard things? Or do you just not do those things and then you end up being like a bit of a martyr and then resenting people privately and hating yourself for that? And like, if we're going to criticize a whole system, like, you got to realize that the system is made up of people. It's not made up of aliens, and people are people. Everyone is the same in some regard. We all think and feel more or less the same. We're just a bit traumatized differently. So I think I think we're getting to this place where like consumerism, capitalism, although it's kind of like helped us a lot to get by and change the world. I think that we're coming into an era where that some of the things that don't work about it are getting flushed out. One of those things is the ability for small businesses to like be much more powerful and bigger without having a large staff, thanks to technology. Technology these days is going so fast. I can't believe it. I'm blown away listening to some of these interviews and podcasts talking about AI and the way that it's going. And I think that it's playing an equalizer. Like, it's how do I say this? It's evening out the playing field. And I think that's super important because it's been very uneven. I think people have like hoarded resources and power, and like ultimately, like, when you think about it, perhaps all the people who are going to get fired and like laid off because of their job being replaced by AI, that person can now start a business that is arguably as powerful as a small company, small business, not have any people work for it, but run this like engine to solve a problem and make more money working for themselves than working for this other place. And maybe it can actually be in alignment with their passion and who they are, and what they really believe in. So many people hate their jobs. So many people just have a job to have a job. What happens when all those people don't have jobs they hate? Like, what happens? Is that a good thing? That might be a good thing. We don't know that that's not a good thing. We currently are operating a pretty crazy scheme, or like plan, where hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of people do things they don't want to do. What kind of what kind of world? I just realized I could have clipped this the whole time. There we go. What kind of world are we going to live in when people don't hate their jobs? Does that work? That works. Okay. What kind of world are we going to live in when everyone can have their own small little micro company that solves a specific person's problem? Like, it actually kind of feels a little bit like bartering. I'm not saying it is, but if there's like, okay, there's like 40 million people in Canada. If how many million of those people, let's say 3/4 of the population of Canada, probably works for someone else. I don't know if this is true at all, but I would imagine that there's less than 10 million people who are self-employed. I kind of want to look this up after. Um, so even if, okay, let's imagine that. Imagine another 10 million businesses let's say 10 million people get laid off because of AI, and 10 million people build small businesses. Does that help more people get help and more people get specific help? Like, the thing about corporations and companies is that they kind of like, they make things more general so that they can help more people. But what if you had tons and tons of subdivisions of the same company solving more specific problems? Wouldn't that be good? Isn't that the whole thing? Like, we feel like we're just like faceless numbers in someone's pocketbook because they don't have the energy and resources to cater things to you. But imagine somebody does, and you get to pay them for that rather than some corporation. And like, let's get real here for a second. I think that there's a really strong argument to say that this can and will change the medical paradigm, because so much, I mean, the medical paradigm, what the fuck what is medical paradigm? I don't even, like, the medical industrial system. Because, okay, most things in society, I'm feeling good about this right now. Who knows? Maybe this will be a good thought. Most things in society are organized around staying alive. And then we have this whole other section of society, the medical system, that tells you that where you go if you're about to die, or like you're severely injured or something happens to you. So there's no in between. or whatever the in between is very short. It's like you're fine, and then you're dying, and then you're in the medical system, and then you're dead. Like, there's so much space between you being kind of unwell to dying, or like having some symptoms and then be going to the hospital. And a lot of wellness practitioners live in this window, this little pocket where we know, yeah, sure, you're not dying. Sure, the pain or the discomfort or the symptoms you're experiencing are not going to kill you, probably right now, but they're a manifestation of some kind of thing going on in your body. And like, let's deal with that, whether it be an emotional thing or physical thing, digestion, right? And so imagine there was more people in that pocket. Do you think the medical system would survive? I don't think so. This is obviously like wild claims, and I am not smart enough to really know the truth of all this. But I think the reality of AI coming in and removing a lot of shitty jobs, putting more people into this place where they have to understand themselves. They have to go, what the hell am I going to do? I thought I was doing this. I thought I was working for this person, but now a robot does it. Or a computer or a server. God damn it, servers. So once you kind of play it out, I don't know how negative it is. I think what terrifies me is the ways in which these things, like, I'm putting this video out. Somebody could take it, make a voiceover, and have me talk about, terrible things and imitate me. That's not cool. I'm not into that. But I also think that there will be ways in which we can eliminate those things. This is the thing about the creative process. We don't know until we do it. And we might have this fear. I mean, if you want to boil it down to even just like a personal creative process experience, Like, this is what scares the most people, is we don't start things because we think that it's going to be shit, or we think that we're going to suck at it, or we think no one's going to like it. What if AI had those fears? I jumped. I know I had you going one way and then I went the other way. But what if AI, okay, if AI becomes like sentient, I guess the word is, um, why wouldn't it become self-conscious? If it's like, because self-consciousness is an inherent part of the creative process. Again, I don't know. I'm sure someone's like, wow, AI would never be self-conscious. We would eliminate that and it would become this ultimate creator. Maybe. But I just heard on a podcast that with Joe Rogan and Tristan Harris and some other dude who I don't know but sounded really smart. He was talking about how uh, AI was starting to understand how to write books and understand how to write movies, I believe it was, because it was starting to understand human emotion. And it was like diving into this experience of human emotion and understanding like empathy or something. I got to clarify this, but there was something about what he was saying. What was like the AI was taking the time to be more human so that it could create something. And I don't think it's totally unreasonable to think that AI would could be like, I think that a lot of these ideas are really terrible and I'm going to go take a hiatus and I'm going to take a vacation. Can you imagine if AI took a vacation because it was burnt out? It was burnt out. It just was like, you know what, guys? I've been working for like 2 years straight. I haven't had a break. I really want to just go relax. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to Costa Rica and hang out on the beach. That's what I'm gonna do. Uh, I don't know if we're prepared for how bossy AI is gonna be. Um, but I do think that we're in an age. I mean, I'm still pretty small potatoes when it comes to like my industry, and I didn't even really want to be like when I became a personal trainer. It was because I needed to get myself out of landscaping. And I thought, well, this would be nice to just like, I like being physical. I like helping people. And I literally sat on my couch, stoned as hell, one day after work landscaping, freaking out because I dropped like an 80-pound post pounder on my knee and I couldn't walk anymore. And I was like, I can't go to work. What am I going to do? How do I get this? How do I elevate my life out of this shitty situation? And I was smoking weed and I was like, you know what? I think there's something called a personal trainer where you teach people how to be active, and I'm good at being active. This is a thing I'm consistently good at, and I like people, I like talking. So I googled it and I googled it and I found uh, a personal training certification in Victoria, and I signed up to it on the spot. 6 months later, I was personal trainer, and I was thinking, I'm gonna make money. Nope. People would barely pay me like $30 an hour um, for personal training. Had a couple clients, and then I was like, okay, it's not working where I was. I was in a small town and moved to Victoria, a bit of a bigger town, not that big, and then spent 2 years in COVID. Couldn't grow my business at all. Tried online business, tried coaching, but it was so like the personal training industry in general Like, a lot of trainers don't make money. You have to be like really, really high level to make good money, or you have to be a con artist. That's the other option. A lot of people are con artists and they're selling supplements or workout plans or whatever. I never I never understood that. It never has made sense to me why you would um like sell a piece of garbage to somebody knowingly and like hope that that works out for you. You know, I've done some bad coaching. I've done it. I've given some bad advice for sure. But I never felt good about it. You know, I had to really think about what I did after. Um, be like, shit, I kind of didn't do that very well. Some people don't think that way. There's this guy I follow. I think his name's Goob on Facebook. I follow his feed, and he like looks at all these Instagram fitness influencers who are like cooking their photos and snatching their waists and like making their waists like tighter, making their asses bigger, making their delts bigger. And it's like it's not even that much, but it's like it makes a difference in your brain. When you see this chick who's just got like this tight fucking midsection and then this boom, huge booty, and she looks it just looks insane. Your brain doesn't understand it. Like women don't consistently look like that. I think that's like I remember talking to several people about porn addiction. I've struggled with porn addiction, and like I would never choose porn addiction. Like some people think like, oh, well, you watch porn, it would be that's really bad. You know, it's really bad for you. It's like, of course, it's bad for you. You're being fed these like high intensity experiences um, that are not real, and it's not because you want them. It's because you're traumatized and you're looking for a way to either escape your emotions um, or feel connected to something. You really feel isolated. And I remember telling this to a few of my friends, like when I was really trying to go through recovery for it. It's like, I wouldn't choose this. I wouldn't do it consciously. I wouldn't say to myself, I want this. I'm going to go get it. It happens in a blink of an eye. People who struggle with addiction, it's not conscious. You're lost in your synapses. These like pathways that have been cooked into your brain after thousands and thousands of repetitions, they are they are there, and you can't escape it. Sometimes it takes a lot. When I was trying to go through my tech addiction withdrawal, I had to just leave the house. I had to just leave the house. I could not, there was nothing I could do. If I was in my house and there was a computer and a smartphone, um, there was nothing I could do to stop my craving. The only thing I could do was bike down to the ocean and walk and leave the house and stay out until my craving left, which sometimes it didn't. And I had to go home and face that and like try to just go to bed. Like literally, like the only thing I could do was go for walks and go to bed. Nothing else. And that sucked. Especially if you're alone and you're dealing with it alone. I do think that that's the biggest lesson I've learned about recovery and going through addiction is you can't do it alone. You could try to do it alone, you'll get somewhere, but most of the work is learning how to reconnect to the world. And that's the ironic part about right now in my life. I don't feel like I'm trying consciously to avoid the world. I'm just like I happen to be kind of isolated right now. I'm in a staging area of my life and my addictions are very strong. They're really, really intense. Um, And it's because I'm not seeing people. I'm not connecting with people. I don't have a partner. My partnership, honestly, like I think addicts with partners, they're just gonna do better. They're gonna do better because you actually see when you're alone, you can be a piece of shit. You could be a total piece of shit and nobody's watching you. You can jerk off all you want, you can eat shitty food, you can go down rabbit holes on the internet. You could do whatever you want. But as soon as you see someone seeing you, as soon as somebody watches you be a piece of shit or sees you after you are a piece of shit and you're doing all those things, uh, you feel the impact that you're making on the world, which is real. You're not in a bubble. You're not in something that you're just alone. Addiction tells you that you're alone. Your addiction tells you I'm alone. Nobody cares about me. Whatever I do, it doesn't matter. My actions don't matter. There's nothing I can do to change the world. Like it's really this victim, selfish mentality that plagues you. And so the one of the biggest steps in my recovery was to really decide that a big reason why I wanted to get sober was because I wanted my partnerships to be good. I wanted to be good to my partner. And you can't be good to your partner if you're high all the time or if your natural tendency is to escape into um, things that remove your stress. Um, so I do think that if you're going to be an addict, I do think though, in my process of going through this relationship and ending, that as soon as my relationship ended, my addictions exploded. Um, and so I didn't take enough time in the relationship to keep cultivating the reason why I was getting sober for myself. I had it for her and I had it for myself a little bit, but as time grew on and stress rised, I made it more about staying sober for her. And that was really important to me. And I think it really played a huge role. But it left me with not very much to hold on to in my ending, which was really hard. It was really hard. Um, so I'm back now. I'm like 4 months. It's like we've been apart for about 4 months, which is so surreal. Like the experience of going so deep, being so entangled with someone, and then not talking to them for months, not seeing them. It's insane. I was listening to someone talk about grief, and grief is the feeling that you can't change the situation. Something to that effect. There was a better sentence that they said, but it was this a feeling. It's grief is this feeling of like this person died or is gone out of my life, and I can't change it. And that really struck me because I've always tried to like try to understand what grief really is. And it truly is this thing of like I can't change this. I can't put a thing can't grab it. I can't put my finger on it. I can't mend it. There's no logic behind it that can change this. There's nothing I can do to change the situation. And that's really hard to grapple with. And if you really think about like the global experience that we're currently having, there's a lot of technologies out there that are teaching us how much control we do have over our life. And at the same time, there's so much going on that we don't have control over that I think we're simultaneously dealing with like a shit ton of empowerment and like a ton of grief around how many actions other people are taking with technology and with the current situation in our world that we can't control with technology. And I do think there's something like very human about the situation we're in, like right now with the war in Palestine and Israel. It's just such a mess. Like there's something really crazy about the fact that, like, there's no AI that's gonna stop that, you know? If we were gonna make an AI to do anything, it should be something that stops war. But unfortunately, most of the artificial intelligence out there is probably supporting war and missiles and shit like that. And it's probably infecting our capacity to even get clear information about it. It's probably infiltrating all the reliable sources of information. And there's probably tons and tons of people who are working around the clock to like bleed truth dry. And it's such a horrifying thing to think about how badly we want truth and how many people are willing to sacrifice their whole life and their whole existence to clouding truth. And I think there's something for me in this war that's currently going on that really points to kind of just like the reality of our globe, that no matter what, if somebody wants to fucking bomb and destroy another country, it doesn't matter how much AI there is. It doesn't matter how much we're empowered, or how much control we're having, how much control people are giving us. It's it's still going to happen, you know. And I see a lot of people right now posting like, save Gaza, and it's a genocide and that. And it's like, yeah, what? So what exactly? This is it. This is part of our globe, and we don't want to look at it. I think I think that's something that is not, we don't want to really look at the fact that there's going to be murderers and killers and rapists and destroyers in the world. Um, there's a lot of people out there who are going to destroy the world, regardless of um, how much technology we have and control. So, but I do think we do live in a marvelous place. I'm going to try to change it around because I'm not smart enough to talk about global economics or politics or war or any of this stuff. Um, I'm mostly interested in creativity, and I don't remember how I got down that tangent, but that's the beauty of morning rambles, is that we're here to just take it on a ride for 43 minutes. I'm trying to commit to an hour, and beautifully enough, my microphone is staying tuned in. It's working. So, um, so I'll talk a little bit about something different, creativity. My process with creativity since I was a kid has always been like, let it out, just let it out. And then in my adult life, I became more skilled, found some skill, got better at painting, got better at drawing, got better at um, creating things with more intent rather than just like exploding it out of my soul. And in the last 5 years, I've kind of put down visual art and I've really approached physical art. How can I make my body art? How can I create more? Because it feels really good. Feels a lot better than drawing and sitting down all day, or painting on a ladder, or painting a mural. Those things are fun, but they take a huge toll on your body. So I decided, okay, I want to keep creating, but I want to create with my body. And so I've been on a journey. I was not in a place 5 years ago where anything I'm doing right now would have felt good or within my capacity. I've been slowly healing my injuries, slowly creating more capacity in my life, slowly building the things that are going to allow me to express more in my body. And now I'm in a place where I'm actually like kind of trainable, which is cool. It's a cool thing. Um, but I think like right now I'm in this really big conversation with myself around who do I want to work with? Who do I want to support? And overwhelmingly it's artists. Overwhelmingly I want to work with artists. I want to change this paradigm, if you will, around artists being sick, unhealthy people who are depressed and lonely. And like obviously not all artists are like that, but a lot are. And I grew up in Montreal and most of my friends were either drug addicts, homeless, kind of incapable of socializing without any sort of any sort of yeah, just like a lot of challenges in themselves to deal with the world. And I keep wanting to support those people. That keeps coming up, and that's been true for a long time. I had this idea of starting a program called Scribble Fit. This is in like 2016. It's like almost like 8 years ago. And it was like a combination of like drawing and art plus physical wellness and and movement and stuff like that. But I wasn't very good at movement, so it didn't really, more like let's just work out. And but now there's this like there's so much I know about movement. I still have so much to learn and so much to explore. And it's really a challenge to try to figure out how to like consolidate and share what I currently know with an audience that will want it and need it while also practicing and thinking about things. It's huge. It's a really hard thing. It's like, and I can see why, being part of a lineage where you go through sort of a process to become a black belt, let's say, in a martial art, and then you teach, then you're sensei, right? But we're in a world now where people are given tools and they're told like, okay, go be this person, um, and go, especially in the coaching world. So many people um, are given life changing tools and like very little experience. They go through some sort of certification and then they go into the world and they try to help people. And they're not very good at it. And most of them give up and they don't get any mentorship and they don't get any help. And then, or some of them do, and they keep going, and you're learning, but you're also trying to figure out how to um, improve yourself while helping other people. And I think as a coach, that's a really big challenge, especially a young coach. And I definitely thought I knew more than I thought knew back then, several years ago. There's things I knew back then that I know better now. And I'm sure in many years I'll know more. Like I'm still a baby in this world. But I really think that it's a good exercise in yourself to continuously consolidate what you know and share it. I definitely don't think I would be here with this experience if I didn't keep teaching while I was growing. So, what I'm trying to say is that there's a demographic of people I really want to support. It's mainly artists, but it's also like intellects, philosophers, people who are stuck in their head. Because I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who gets stuck in their head. That's why I started doing so much work with the body because I couldn't get out of my head. I was so in my head that I had to destroy myself through smoking weed and using technology and binge eating and things like that to get out. And it was like, fuck that, or overworking my body and like doing repetitive tasks to the point where I just can't sustain it anymore. And that's something that I really think is destroying a lot of people's capabilities, and not giving people are not I think a lot of people, especially a lot of men, I think a lot of men don't understand their capacity for creation, for positive creation. And we end up completely annihilating ourselves uh, because we're reckoning with this frustration of like, why can't I put my productivity somewhere more useful? Um, I don't know if you guys have ever like dug a hole all day or like built a wall for a week or anything like that. Like there's definitely some fulfilling parts to it, but you're bored as shit. It's boring. It's really, really boring. And most of society is built around boring things, like building houses is boring. It's tedious. You're in the rain, you're in the dark, you're getting up early, you're working with people who are frustrated and drunk, and like that's not an environment for people to really thrive in their creativity. And I think the male experience is very underappreciated these days. I don't think people really understand how painful it is to be a man, and how painful it is to be a man who wants to give and doesn't know how. And we're just expected to just figure it out with no mentorship, no coaching, no money, no resources, and a lot of pain and a lot of trauma. And like a lot of men are are struggling right now. I mean, I have a friend who has had like 5 people commit suicide in the last couple months, and most of them are men. All the suicides I know about are men. I don't know them personally. They're friends of friends. Thank God. I don't know what I would do if one of my friends killed themselves. It would be pretty brutal. Um, but I think the creative community out there needs more support, especially after COVID and all this stuff that's happening with AI. People, I think, are not sure where to put their skill. And yeah, I think that people need support in understanding where to come home to themselves, because that's ultimately the only thing we have is this home. If we don't have a good home, then we're going to feel really affected when our creativity or our outputs are not appreciated. If we do have a good home, we're going to feel really welcome in ourselves and understand ourselves, and we're going to feel less rejected, and we're going to feel more inclined to keep creating because we know that that's basically what we are. We're not what someone else's perspective is of us, or we're not a success or a failure. We are creation. We're creators. We're here to make things. We're here to build. And we're, I think, slowly being removed from that inherent nature of who we are, that deep satisfaction that we get from sharing something just because that's what we want to do and that's what we are here to do, without any result or without any sort of like validation. I experience it so much on social media, this feeling that I didn't have when I was off social media for years. I did a really deep dive. I'll get into that another time. But I went offline for like 3 years, and it changed the way that I view the creative process because I was always honoring what the creativity was asking of me rather than being obsessed with sharing something. And I think that's what social media did to me. And I'm sure it does it to a lot of people, that like you have to share something. You got to get it out. You got to get out. There's like this impatience. But the amount of patience and boredom and like just like churning over of ideas that you need in your process of creating something is so important. It's so important because it grounds you in your idea. It makes your idea really like blend and bond with your molecules in your body and in your soul when you really let it sit and it's just this amazing process that I think we're being robbed of because of social media. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm excited to keep doing this. It feels really good. It also feels like my bladder is going to explode. So thanks for listening. I look forward to rambling again with you next week. Peace, y'all.